So, Mr. Matthew, what is your book?
My book is called Judge and Jury, and it is written by James Patterson.
What is this fabulous book about?
The story takes off in the United States. It's about Nick, who is an FBI agent, and he has to go and hunt down Dominic, who is a mob boss. Dominic has killed lots of people, which is really bad, and Nick finally captures him. But when Nick brings Dominic to court, Dominic decides he's going to hire henchmen to kill all the jury. And that's pretty much the next 200 pages of the book.
Well, how fabulous was this book?
It was okay.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how many people would you recommend this to?
5.
Welcome back, and now we will be interviewing Mr. Stephen Delatorre with his tremendous, fabulous, absolutely amazing book. Good morning, Stephen. So, I heard you read this amazing book. Would you like to share anything about it with the audience?
I read Angel Experiment by James Patterson. It was a book about a human who got experimented on and by these scientists, and they call the place school, and they gave them wings and gave the kids wings, and they test them on these students with different animals. And then throughout the book, she goes on an adventure and trying to escape the scientists and try to bring the scientists down. That's pretty much it.
Would you recommend this book to any of the viewers?
If you like adventure and mystery.
So this fantastic book is an adventure book. So adventure yourself out to the bookstore and get this book. Are you ready for this next exciting, enthusiastical, and enthralling book hosted and read by the one and only Caleb Landrum?
Two, one.
So, Mr. Caleb Landrum, what is your book about?
Well, I read Witch and Wizard by James Patterson. It's about these two siblings, Wit and Wesley Algood, that are arrested by the new order for being a witch and wizard. They are taken to a prison that is occupied by only children, and then they're put on trial and are set to be executed by their 18th birthday. But while they're living in the prison, they both accidentally use magic because they're not really in control of their powers. And then, so they're put on trial again and marked as highly dangerous and then set to be executed the next day. So then they go around, they have some trouble trying to escape, and they finally meet up with Celia, who was Wit's girlfriend, who was killed by the New Order, but she's a half-light who can live throughout different realms and the Shadowland and come back and forth between the real world. And she teaches them how to go through the Shadowland, so they escape through the Shadowland, and then they meet up with some people who are trying to start a revolution in the real world, and they kind of teach them how to use their powers, and then they basically just plan how to fight back, and that's the end of that's mostly in the first novel, and that's the first book of the novel, or the series, so.
Very cool. Will you be, I don't know, interested in reading the rest of the novels?
I think so. It kind of left me hanging a little bit, and I'd like to see where it goes.
Very good. Well, thank you for your time. So, Cam, I'm so glad to see you. The word on the street is that you just read this book, The Dangerous Days of Daniel X. Tell us all about it. this very interesting book was about this kid named Daniel, and he doesn't have a last name, which is why he's called Daniel X. When he was just 3 years old, he was in his house, but in the basement, and he was playing with a flea, which is kind of ironic, but you don't really figure that out until halfway through the book. Well, these aliens invade his house, and these aliens are like giant grasshoppers, and they find his parents, and they start yelling at his parents and just really acting up, and Daniel didn't understand it because he was only 3 years old. Well, his parents yelled, "I love you," and then they heard loud screams. Well, it turns out that his parents got killed by the aliens because they wouldn't tell them where this list was. Daniel later figured out where this list was, and this list contained a list of all the aliens in the world that were major superpowers, and he decided, hey, aliens killed my parents, I should probably destroy them. So he goes from the bottom of the list to the top, and using his shape-shifting powers and other powers to kill these aliens until he gets to number 1, which is the big question, whether he succeeds or not, and if he finds them. But number 1 is the alien, the superpower, the dangerous alien that no one can defeat, the one that killed his parents. And it's a really interesting book. And I don't know, I would really like to read the second and third and maybe even the fourth one, but we'll just start the second one for now.
Well, since my book was about people who have to hunt down a mob boss, unless James Patterson had to become an FBI agent and kill a mob boss, then his life experience is probably didn't affect how he wrote this book. Besides the fact that he was a reporter, that may have influenced a little bit.
Or unless he grew wings, became a werewolf. I don't think his life affected my life.
He did have a very colorful and playful childhood, which would have explained his age in my book. And for his life story, he's had a lot of co-authors that have written most of his books, though he takes credit, and he's written probably the most books of any American author.
Well, James Patterson was born on March 22nd, 1947 in New Jersey, so it's not really a happening place. He, unless he has some magical powers, I don't think he really influenced my book, but I think he just had a really good imagination to really write that stuff down.